He's awake, and something is terribly wrong. The words echoed in my mind as I sprinted down the sterile hospital corridor, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead. My scrubs clung to my skin, damp with sweat from running up 3 flights of stairs, and the scent of antiseptic filled my nostrils, sharp and unyielding. Ethan's scream had pierced the quiet night, a raw, panicked sound that made every muscle in my body tense. I burst into the VIP pediatric wing, where polished marble floors reflected the dim light, and saw him sitting upright in his crib, tiny hands clutching the sheets, his green eyes wide with alarm. The pillow beside him had shifted slightly, and the glint of something metallic caught the corner of my eye. My heart slammed in my chest as I recognized the needles carefully placed against the soft white fabric, small enough to harm but unnoticed until now. I swallowed hard, forcing my mind to focus as I crouched beside him, whispering soothing words, each syllable a tether between him and safety. "It's okay, Ethan, I'm right here. You're safe now." His small frame trembled beneath my hands, and I could feel his rapid heartbeat against my palm. The room was silent except for the occasional beep from monitors, yet every shadow seemed alive, every sound amplified by tension. Then a low hum of power shifted the atmosphere. The presence of Lorenzo Gambino at the doorway, tall and commanding, his dark eyes scanning the room with measured precision. He didn't speak immediately, just observed, the aura around him almost tangible, a blend of authority and cold calculation that made the air heavy. My hands didn't falter, yet a shiver ran down my spine, knowing that while I was in control of Ethan, the situation was far from safe. Carefully, I removed the needles, placing them on a tray out of his reach, my movements deliberate and steady, as if each motion could either protect or endanger him. Lorenzo's gaze followed, sharp and discerning, noting every gesture, every twitch of my hands, yet he made no interference, giving me the space to act but silently reminding me of his omnipresent control. I spoke softly, narrating my actions aloud to calm both Ethan and perhaps, in some unspoken way, Lorenzo's expectations. I'm checking the pillow, moving it away, making sure everything is safe. Ethan's breathing began to slow, though his small body still quivered, and I felt a pang of relief mixed with exhaustion so profound it felt like it weighed me down into the polished floor. Lorenzo stepped forward then, the subtle click of his designer shoes echoing through the quiet room, and I could feel the shift in air as he approached. His presence was intense, yet he stopped a few feet from me, allowing me to maintain my connection with Ethan while exuding an undeniable sense of control. "He's okay?" His voice was low, measured, carrying authority without a single raised tone. I nodded, trying to steady my racing thoughts and pulse. "He's safe, for now." Lorenzo's eyes softened minutely, just enough to hint at respect, or perhaps acknowledgement of my competence under pressure, before hardening once more. A reminder that while the immediate danger was mitigated, the world outside this room was far more complex, and I was now a key player within it. Ethan blinked up at me, trusting and fragile, and I whispered, "We're going to be all right," though the words felt fragile against the tension crackling in the air. Outside, the hall remained dim and silent, but within the small room, every heartbeat, every breath, every subtle shift of shadow reminded me that the night was far from over, and survival, for both the boy and myself, demanded vigilance, courage, and unwavering focus. The soft hum of the monitors filled the room as I carefully adjusted Ethan in the crib, making sure he was comfortable and still secure, every small movement deliberate, measured to avoid startling him. His small hands clutched the sheets with a trembling grip, and I felt a surge of urgency mixed with protective instinct as I checked each corner of the crib, ensuring no other objects could be within reach. Lorenzo Gambino remained at the doorway, his tall frame motionless, watching with those piercing dark eyes that seemed to calculate every risk in the room. I could feel the weight of his gaze, heavy but strangely contained, like a silent acknowledgement of my presence and capability. The faint scent of his cologne lingered in the air, subtle yet commanding, anchoring the tension that stretched between us as taut as a wire. I spoke softly, narrating my actions aloud to both reassure Ethan and to maintain a rhythm of calm control. I am removing the blanket, setting it aside, and checking the mattress for any small objects. The little boy blinked at me with wide eyes, his breathing slowing slightly but still uneven, and I held my hand lightly over his chest, counting each heartbeat, letting him feel my steady presence. Lorenzo took a single step forward, the sound of his shoes echoing in the quiet space. And I could sense him scanning the monitors, the IV lines, and every tool in the room, assessing without touching, a presence both formidable and restrained. I reached for the small lamp on the nightstand, angling it just enough to provide better visibility without disturbing Ethan's eyes. And his small frame flinched slightly at the light, causing my chest to tighten in empathy. I whispered, "It is only light, Ethan. You are safe with me. I will not let anything hurt you." The room, small and compressed by tension and the sheer intensity of Lorenzo's silent observation. And yet within that compression, there was a strange cooperation, a shared understanding that the child's safety was paramount. Every second felt elongated, stretched by the pressure of responsibility, and I methodically checked the pillowcases, the surrounding sheets, and the toys stacked neatly in the corner, ensuring nothing could be a hazard. Lorenzo finally spoke, his voice low and calm. "He is in good hands, Sophia. I see that." There was no accusation, only recognition, and the subtle acknowledgement lifted some of the weight from my shoulders while reinforcing the intensity of the moment. Ethan shifted slightly, his small hand brushing against mine, and I felt a delicate but powerful bond forming in those moments, a connection of trust and protection that transcended fear. I guided him gently back into a comfortable position, patting the sheets with light, confident touches, ensuring that every muscle in his body relaxed under my care. Outside the window, the night pressed on with the faint hum of city traffic, but inside, the room was suspended in a controlled, charged stillness, where every motion, every word, and every glance carried significance. Lorenzo's presence remained steadfast, unwavering yet non-intrusive, a reminder that while I held immediate control of Ethan's safety, the broader stakes of the world he represented loomed just beyond the walls. I adjusted the monitors, checked the oxygen readings, and meticulously prepared the emergency supplies within reach, each action deliberate, precise, as though performing a ritual that balanced tension with calm. Ethan's breathing became steadier, his eyelids fluttering with tentative calm, and I whispered a final reassurance. "You are safe, Ethan. I am here. Nothing will hurt you." Lorenzo moved closer, just enough for the subtle pressure of his aura to blend with the safety I was providing, creating a momentary equilibrium of trust, vigilance, and silent acknowledgement that we were facing this together. In this small room, under the weight of circumstances none of us could fully control, yet each of us fully committed to the protection and care of the child before us. The night outside pressed against the tall windows of the VIP pediatric wing, faint city lights refracting off the glass and casting elongated shadows across the polished floors. I sat on the edge of the crib, gently brushing a stray strand of hair from Ethan's forehead as his small chest rose and fell with more even rhythm. Every so often his fingers twitched against the sheets, a reminder that the tension from earlier had not fully released. Lorenzo Gambino remained standing near the doorway, his presence commanding yet silent, his sharp gaze sweeping the room with a careful precision that suggested he noted every detail, from the subtle twitch of Ethan's eyelid to the meticulous way I organized the surrounding supplies. I adjusted the positioning of the crib mattress slightly, testing the space around it for any overlooked hazards, moving with methodical care, speaking to Ethan in soft, measured tones. "I am right here, Ethan. Nothing will hurt you. You are safe." Each word was a tether, an assurance I hoped would anchor him in calm. The air in the room was thick with the weight of responsibility and observation, a delicate balance between vigilance and restraint. Lorenzo stepped forward just slightly, his shoes making no more than a soft click against the marble, and I felt the subtle shift in atmosphere, an unspoken agreement that while he commanded authority, he trusted my immediate actions regarding Ethan's care. I guided my hands over the small pillow, inspecting every inch, ensuring that the earlier discovery of needles was an isolated threat and that no further danger lingered. My fingers moved over the crisp fabric, feeling for the faintest irregularity, each touch deliberate and precise. Lorenzo's eyes tracked every motion, yet he allowed the space for me to operate independently, the quiet tension between control and trust creating an almost tangible rhythm in the room. Ethan blinked up at me, still hesitant but slowly relaxing under my steady attention, his tiny fingers curling slightly around the soft sheets. I whispered reassurances, "We are okay now. We are safe together," careful to maintain a tone that conveyed calm without excitement, allowing him to sense stability. Lorenzo shifted his stance slightly, the faintest acknowledgement passing in the curve of his jaw and the narrowing of his eyes, a subtle nod that did not disturb my focus but reminded me that he observed everything. I methodically repositioned the blankets and pillows, stacking and adjusting with careful precision, so that Ethan could not reach anything hazardous, all the while keeping verbal contact, narrating each step, each adjustment, to reinforce the sense of safety in both of us. The monitors beeped steadily, a background rhythm against which the tension in the room played out, punctuated only by Ethan's tentative breaths and the faint shuffle of my movements across the polished floor. I repositioned the emergency supplies within easy reach, making certain that all necessary tools were accessible. Double-checking lines, medication, and equipment, every action deliberate, precise, and fluid. The room felt suspended, a moment held in fragile equilibrium, where every motion, glance, and word carried significance and weight. I brushed a loose corner of the blanket from Ethan's hand, watching him relax slightly as the tension eased, and whispered, "You are safe with me, Ethan. You are secure." Lorenzo's presence remained steady, silent yet intensely focused, a quiet force that reinforced the atmosphere of attentive care, underscoring that while I maintained direct responsibility, the broader world beyond these walls still held power and influence, a reminder that protection required vigilance, skill, and calm precision in every movement. The soft glow of the bedside lamp reflected off the polished floor, stretching the shadows across the walls in long, wavering lines that seemed to dance with each subtle movement I made. Ethan had nestled back against the small mattress, his green eyes blinking up at me with tentative curiosity and a fragile trust that I felt pressing against my chest like a delicate weight. I adjusted the corner of the blanket over his shoulders, careful to avoid startling him, speaking in a low, steady voice that seemed to ease some of the lingering tension. "It is all right, Ethan, you are safe. I am right here." Each word was deliberate, measured, a quiet anchor amidst the undercurrent of unease that still hummed in the room. Lorenzo Gambino moved silently to a position near the monitor console, his tall frame straight and imposing yet unintrusive, observing every aspect of the environment with calculated precision, noting the subtle twitch of Ethan's fingers, the barely audible hum of the machines, the way I maintained a delicate balance between vigilance and gentle reassurance. I carefully examined the sheets and mattress again, ensuring no remaining hazards lurked unseen, my hands sweeping over the crisp fabric, lifting and smoothing with meticulous care, all while maintaining verbal contact with Ethan. "I am checking everything again, making sure nothing can hurt you," I murmured, my voice calm but firm, reinforcing his sense of security. Ethan's small hands clutched lightly at the blanket, his chest rising more evenly, yet I could sense the residual anxiety in the slight tension of his shoulders. Lorenzo's eyes followed every motion, noting the subtle control I exercised over the room, the way I guided Ethan's attention and breathing. Yet he remained a quiet presence, his authority communicated through posture and presence rather than words. I repositioned the emergency supplies within arm's reach, carefully double-checking medications, monitoring equipment, and all lines to ensure that everything necessary for immediate intervention was at hand, every movement precise and purposeful. The hum of the monitors punctuated the quiet, each beep a steady rhythm against which the room's tension unfolded. I adjusted the lighting once more, angling it softly so that Ethan's vision was not disturbed, observing how the shadows shifted along the walls and floor, keeping every line of sight in mind, aware that any overlooked detail could alter the delicate balance of the moment. Lorenzo stepped slightly closer, not interfering, but his presence intensified the sense of focus, a silent acknowledgement of the stakes in play and a subtle reinforcement of vigilance. I guided Ethan's small hands to rest calmly on the sheets, using gentle pressure to convey assurance, and whispered, "You are safe with me. Nothing will harm you here." His eyelids fluttered, easing as the reassurance settled into the rhythm of his breathing. The room felt suspended, time stretching thinly around the three of us, every gesture, glance, and whispered word carrying weight, importance, and unspoken understanding. Outside, the distant city hummed faintly, but inside, the space was controlled, deliberate, a small bubble of attention, care, and quiet authority, where every motion and breath was in service of Ethan's safety and the fragile trust that had begun to weave itself between us. Each second elongated, filled with deliberate observation, careful intervention, creating an environment where tension, protection, control coexisted, forging an unspoken alliance of vigilance and reassurance that bound us together in the shared priority of keeping the child safe and secure. The faint hum of the monitors blended with the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock, each second stretching as I kept my hands lightly on Ethan, feeling the subtle rise and fall of his chest and the small, uneven tremor of his fingers. Lorenzo Gambino remained near the doorway, his presence measured, almost statuesque, observing every detail, the dark suits of his aides barely visible behind him, a silent perimeter of watchfulness that underscored the stakes of the night. I gently lifted the small pillow, inspecting every inch, my fingertips brushing the soft fabric with deliberate care, ensuring that no object remained that could startle or injure Ethan. I spoke softly, narrating each movement aloud. I am checking the pillow again, making certain everything is safe, allowing my voice to be a steady anchor for the boy, the words soft but firm, carrying reassurance through the charged air. Ethan blinked slowly up at me, small brows furrowed in confusion and relief, and I guided his tiny hands to rest lightly on the mattress, tracing the lines of his fingers with careful, deliberate movements to create a sense of stability. Lorenzo shifted his weight slightly, the subtle sound of his shoes echoing in the polished floor, a quiet reminder of his vigilance. Yet he remained a presence that respected the space between us, observing without interfering, his expression unreadable but clearly focused. I adjusted the blanket around Ethan once more, smoothing edges and tucking corners with precise care, making sure he was both comfortable and secure, his body gradually relaxing under the rhythm of my touch. The monitors beeped steadily, each tone punctuating the quiet, a reminder of both normalcy and fragility. Small medical supplies, lining syringes, medication trays, and monitoring tools within easy reach, ensuring every necessary item was immediately accessible should Ethan need it. I whispered again, "You are safe with me, Ethan. I am right here," feeling the connection deepen as his small eyelids drooped slightly, the tension in his body easing with the consistent attention and calm energy I projected. Lorenzo moved closer, though his approach was deliberate, almost ceremonial, reinforcing the balance of power and trust. A silent understanding that, while I held immediate control over Ethan's safety, his presence and authority were integral to the broader security of the environment. I surveyed the crib once more, noting the placement of sheets and surrounding space, each movement fluid and careful, narrating aloud to maintain the rhythm and to give Ethan a sense of agency. We are checking everything again, making sure nothing is within reach that could hurt you. The room remained suspended in a delicate equilibrium, time seeming to elongate with each careful adjustment, each whispered reassurance, and each subtle glance between Lorenzo and myself a moment, where vigilance, protection, and trust coexisted in a silent choreography of care. Ethan's small hands curled slightly around the blanket, his breathing more even, and I whispered a final reassurance, "You are safe, Ethan? I will not let anything harm you," knowing that the careful attention, deliberate movements, and the combined presence of both protector and observer had created a fragile but secure haven in this quiet, tension-filled night. The steady beep of the monitors blended with the faint hum of the hospital ventilation, a subtle background rhythm that mirrored the tension coiling in the room. I sat at the edge of the crib, fingers lightly brushing Ethan's soft hair, watching his small chest rise and fall with cautious regularity, each breath a reminder of the delicate balance I maintained. Lorenzo Gambino remained near the corner, his tall frame rigid yet composed, the dark suit impeccably tailored, the subtle scent of cologne mingling with the sterile air, a constant presence that weighed on the room without intrusion. I carefully adjusted the crib mattress one more time, smoothing the sheets, ensuring every corner and crease was free of potential hazards. narrating each movement softly. "I am making sure the sheets are smooth, Ethan, so nothing can bother you." His small hands reached for mine, and I allowed him to hold onto my fingers, guiding them with a light pressure, a gentle tether of reassurance. The soft glow of the lamp highlighted the focused expressions on both our faces, the flickering shadows emphasizing the quiet intensity of the moment. Lorenzo shifted slightly, the faint click of his polished shoes on the marble floor signaling a subtle movement, a reminder of his watchful authority without breaking the delicate rhythm of the room. I reached for the small pile of blankets and carefully folded and tucked each one around Ethan, ensuring he was warm, secure, and comfortable. All movements deliberate, maintaining a fluidity that balanced vigilance with gentleness. I whispered to him, narrating the care with soft precision. "We are checking everything, Ethan, making sure you are safe and cozy." His eyes began to relax, the earlier tension slowly easing, a testament to the consistent reassurance and attention he received. Lorenzo stepped just a fraction closer, his presence imposing yet measured, a silent acknowledgement that the protection of this room rested jointly on my vigilance and his overarching authority. I positioned the emergency tray within reach, verifying each item, ensuring syringes, medication, and monitoring tools were immediately accessible, all arranged in a precise order to allow for swift, confident response if needed. Ethan's breathing grew more even, eyelids drooping slightly, and I traced the curve of his small hand with gentle strokes, a tactile anchor to foster calm and security. Lorenzo's eyes followed every movement, noting the meticulous care, the quiet confidence in my actions, a subtle recognition that our combined presence created a sanctuary of attention and preparedness. I softly adjusted the lamp, angling the light to avoid his direct gaze while illuminating the crib fully, allowing shadows to shift without startling him. Each sound, each breath, each micro-movement was magnified by the intensity of vigilance in the room. Yet all actions were deliberate, precise, controlled, sustaining an equilibrium that allowed Ethan to feel both safe and supported. I whispered again, "You are safe, Ethan. Nothing will hurt you now," watching his small chest rise and fall with steadier rhythm, the fragile trust between us solidifying into a tangible thread of calm. The room existed in suspended time, every motion, glance, and soft word building a quiet fortress around him. A blend of reassurance, careful oversight, and unwavering attention that wrapped around Ethan like a protective cocoon, where safety, vigilance, and trust coexisted in seamless, deliberate harmony. The quiet of the VIP pediatric room felt fragile, almost like a held breath, every sound amplified in the polished space as I continued to monitor Ethan, my hands lightly resting on his small shoulders to provide steady reassurance. The rhythmic beeping of the monitors became a backdrop to the subtle tension that had not fully dissipated, each tone a reminder that vigilance was required even in moments of calm. Ethan's green eyes blinked slowly up at me, his small fingers curling slightly around the edge of the blanket, a tentative sign of trust that made my chest tighten with a mixture of relief and enduring concern. Lorenzo Gambino remained near the doorway, his dark eyes following every movement, the faint scent of cologne trailing him in a steady, commanding presence that neither rushed nor interfered, but made the room feel taut with silent authority. I adjusted the small pillow beneath Ethan's head, smoothing the sheets carefully, narrating each action in soft tones to create a rhythm of calm. "I am making sure you are comfortable, Ethan. Nothing can harm you here." His breathing grew more even as I guided his small hands to rest lightly on the mattress, keeping tactile contact to reinforce security. The shadows of the room stretched and shifted as I moved the emergency supplies within reach, organizing them in precise order. Every action deliberate, a choreography of safety and readiness, while Lorenzo observed, silently acknowledging the structure of care I maintained. I repositioned the small lamp to diffuse the light more evenly across the crib, making sure it was neither harsh nor startling, and Ethan flinched slightly, prompting a whispered reassurance. "It is only light, Ethan. I am here. Everything is safe." The room remained suspended in a controlled quiet time, elongating with each careful movement, each gentle word, the weight of responsibility pressing against my ribs even as I maintained outward calm. Lorenzo shifted closer just a fraction, his shoes making a soft click on the polished marble, signaling movement without interruption. His posture steady, eyes fixed on the monitors and Ethan alike, a silent reinforcement of oversight. I continued to check every corner of the crib, inspecting sheets and blankets for any unnoticed hazards, tracing the edges with gentle fingers, speaking to Ethan as I worked. Everything is safe now. You do not need to worry. His small body relaxed further under the consistent attention, eyelids drooping slightly, fingers uncurling from the sheets in subtle acknowledgement of safety. Lorenzo's presence remained both imposing and restrained, a counterpoint of authority and trust, silently guiding the space without disrupting the connection forming between Ethan and myself. Each sound, each breath, each micro-movement was accentuated by the stillness, every whispered word carrying significance, building a fragile cocoon of calm that wrapped around Ethan, a careful balance of vigilance, preparedness, and reassurance. I adjusted the positioning of the blankets one final time, ensuring comfort and acceptable immediate response if needed, narrating softly, "You are safe with me, Ethan. I will not let anything harm you." Isu. And felt the trust solidify in the small, steady rise and fall of his chest, the quiet green of his eyes reflecting the security that the room now held, a tense but protective harmony sustained by attention, care, and unwavering focus from both myself and the silent watch of Lorenzo. The soft hum of the hospital monitors created a steady rhythm in the otherwise silent VIP room, a pulse that synchronized with my careful movements as I continued to monitor Ethan. He had settled further into the crib, small hands brushing lightly against the smooth sheets, each breath slower and more even than moments before. Yet the residual tension lingered in the slight stiffening of his shoulders and the occasional twitch of his fingers. Lorenzo Gambino remained near the far corner, tall and immobile, his dark eyes scanning the room with an intensity that made the air feel charged, a presence that carried authority without a single word, silently reinforcing the vigilance required in this fragile environment. I adjusted the positioning of the blankets once more, tucking the cord precisely so that Ethan remained secure and comfortable, narrating softly, "I am making sure everything is in place, Ethan. You are safe and cozy." His small gaze met mine for a fleeting moment, a fragile trust forming in the quiet connection of those green eyes, and I allowed my hand to lightly rest over his, providing a steady anchor as his breathing continued to slow. The gentle light of the bedside lamp illuminated the crib and the careful arrangement of monitors and emergency supplies, casting long, soft shadows across the room. Each movement deliberate, each adjustment calculated to maintain the equilibrium of safety and calm. Lorenzo shifted slightly, a subtle click of polished shoes on the marble floor, drawing my attention to the silent acknowledgement of my care. His presence a reminder that while I held immediate responsibility for Ethan, the broader context of protection extended beyond my hands, into the authority he represented. I checked the small pillow and surrounding sheets again, lifting and smoothing with precise movements, making certain that no object remained that could startle or endanger the child, narrating softly, "We are checking everything again. Nothing will harm you here." Ethan's fingers relaxed against the mattress, his small body settling further into the safety I projected, and I felt a surge of cautious relief, knowing that the trust between us had deepened, delicate yet resilient. Lorenzo took another step, careful and measured, his watchful gaze never leaving the monitors or Ethan, and I sensed a silent alignment of purpose, a shared focus that underscored the importance of vigilance, preparedness, and the quiet exercise of authority without intrusion. I adjusted the lamp to soften the illumination further, ensuring Ethan's eyes were not disturbed while keeping the room sufficiently lit for continuous monitoring, every movement synchronized with gentle verbal reassurances. "You are safe with me, Ethan. I am right here." It seemed to contract and expand with the rhythm of our actions, each breath, each glance, each slight shift in posture carrying weight and significance. I moved the emergency tray slightly closer, verifying that each item was within reach, each piece meticulously positioned for immediate access if necessary, maintaining fluid, deliberate movements that reinforced calm. Ethan's breathing grew even steadier, the tension easing further, and I whispered softly, tracing the curve of his small hand. "Everything is all right, Ethan. You are safe." Lorenzo's presence remained steady, a constant reminder of authority and oversight. The silent assurance that while I maintained direct care, the broader responsibility was shared, creating a balance of protection, trust, and calm that wrapped around Ethan, a fragile but resilient cocoon sustained by attention, precision, and unwavering focus. The first rays of the early morning light filtered through the tall hospital windows, casting long, soft beams across the polished marble floor and illuminating the room in a pale, gentle glow that softened the tension lingering from the night. Ethan stirred slightly in the crib, his small body shifting under the carefully arranged blankets, and I adjusted the pillows to support him, keeping my hands steady and deliberate, narrating softly, "We are safe, Ethan. You can rest now." His green eyes fluttered open briefly, searching the room before settling on mine, a fragile trust reflected in his cautious gaze. Lorenzo Gambino remained in the corner, his presence unwavering, the subtle scent of cologne mixing with the faint antiseptic in the air. Silent yet imposing, a constant reminder of the broader responsibility and oversight he provided without interference. I carefully straightened the sheets and blankets once more, ensuring that every corner was tucked securely, that no object could pose a risk. Each motion precise, measured, and deliberate, maintaining both safety and calm. The monitors hummed steadily, a rhythmic accompaniment to the quiet intensity in the room, punctuating the soft sounds of Ethan's breathing and the occasional creak of the crib. I shifted slightly, bringing the emergency tray closer, checking the placement of syringes, medication, and monitoring tools, ensuring immediate accessibility while keeping my movements fluid and unintrusive. I whispered reassuringly to Ethan, "Everything is all right. You are safe and protected," and felt the small weight of his hand touch mine, a delicate connection of trust that reinforced the calm in the room. Lorenzo's eyes followed each action with careful calculation, his posture tall and composed, silently reinforcing the environment of vigilance and care that now enveloped the space. I adjusted the lamp again, softening the illumination to avoid startling Ethan while maintaining sufficient light to monitor the room, the shifting shadows enhancing the quiet, protective atmosphere. Each breath, each glance, each subtle movement was magnified by the intensity of attention, and I spoke softly to Ethan as I gently guided his small hands to rest calmly. "You are safe with me, Ethan. Nothing can hurt you here." His body relaxed further, eyelids drooping as he settled into the secure rhythm established through our careful interaction. Lorenzo stepped slightly closer, not breaking the balance but signaling his silent support, his watchful presence a reminder that the safety of the room was a shared responsibility, a combination of care, preparation, and attentive oversight. I checked the surrounding space one last time, scanning the mattress, the crib rails, and the blankets, making minor adjustments with precision, ensuring that Ethan was secure and comfortable, narrating softly, "Everything is in place. You are safe, Ethan. I will not let anything harm you." The room held a fragile equilibrium, time stretching with each careful movement, each whisper, each measured glance between Lorenzo and myself. A delicate orchestration of vigilance, reassurance, and trust that wrapped around Ethan like an invisible shield, creating a quiet sanctuary in the early morning light where safety, attention, and calm coexisted seamlessly, and the sense of security settled into the room, palpable and enduring.